Good morning, it's Pastor Jason. Thank you for being a part of Coffee with Compassion this morning. Let me ask you real quick, do you feel like you've gone through a great flood in this time with COVID-19? Do you feel like you're going to come through it? Psalm 32:6 says, "Therefore let everyone who is godly pray to you in a time when you may be found. Surely in a great flood of waters they will not reach him." Has this time not felt like a great flood in our lives? You know, floods are what? They're noisy. From the media to the government to even people who are our own friends. You're hearing so much come from so many directions, causing a great flood in our life. Noise, telling us how to feel, telling us how to think, bringing worries and anxieties our way. You see, floods are isolating. You know, whether you are working or staying home, the isolation at this time has been very intense for a lot of people. I know introverts who are just begging to be with crowds of people now because they've been isolated for so long. Floods are overwhelming. Many of you are overwhelmed at the idea of reopening. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going to happen with COVID. You don't know how will you open? How will you be safe? How will you go back to work? How will you catch up with your work? It can be very overwhelming. Psalm 32:6 tells us that you better know God before the flood comes, because when it comes, it will be difficult to seek him. But let me encourage you in this time. You know, Psalm 32 was not written from some perch. It was not written from David's perspective of looking down upon everybody, knowing, well, I'm up here hearing God and I know everything's okay. David was in the flood. When David wrote this, he was in times of intensity. He was struggling with things. This was his way to reach out to God, and knowing that God had everything under control and that God was the judge of all. He writes Psalm 32 in the midst of the flood. In Romans 4:6, Paul quotes verse 2 of Psalm 32. He says, "Blessed are those whose lawless deeds have been forgiven and whose sins have been covered." So what is David actually telling us in Psalm 32 then? That we better have our life straight and sorted out before the hard times come in our life? We better have our life straight before these judgments come? I think that would certainly help. But I also believe that David is telling us a way to handle it even in the midst of the flood. He says, you know, when we're looking for God, when we're looking in this time, you know, though it may be difficult, God's not changed. God's still on his throne. He's still the one who wipes away our sins. He's still the one who judges and sets everything straight. You know, there will be a final judgment. There will be a time when the consideration of our sins come, and if someone doesn't know Jesus, if their lawless deeds have not been covered, yes, it will be too late. But the little floods, the floods that come in our life every day, we can handle, guys. The flood will lie to you. It will tell you, it will instill fear. The flood will tell you it has the power of life and death in its hands. But remember, life and death belongs to God. He controls all. The flood will lie to you. It will tell you that you are alone. But God promised he would never leave you or forsake you. The flood will lie to you. It will make you feel like you don't have a leg to stand on. David in his psalm is acknowledging his lack of foresight. He acknowledges a lack of understanding. He acknowledges that he is not enough. But God, with just God entering the equation, it changes everything. Isaiah 59:1, he wrote, "Listen, the Lord's arm is not too weak to save you, nor is his ear too deaf to hear when you call." You know, if your current struggles have overwhelmed you, if this time's overwhelmed you and you're just wondering, when's it going to end? It may not end the way we think it's going to, guys. But whatever your need is, whatever your prayer is, I promise you, God can hear. His arm is not too short to reach. He is not too weak or to reach out to you. And what I would encourage you is this: do what David did. Acknowledge your weakness. Acknowledge your sin. Acknowledge your shortcomings in this time. He's listening. It's not a way of us just admitting that we can't do things. It's a way of admitting that we rely on him. Let's do that in this time. Pray with me. Father, I just thank you, God, as we come through this, as we're cycling through wherever the end of this is, Lord, whatever our next step is working through this pandemic, Lord, I thank you that you're in it, that you know what's going on, that you hear our prayers, that you listen, and that you care about us, Lord. God, may we just lean into you, continue to hope in you, and continue to look to you for answers. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you, guys. God bless. Have an awesome day.